Christmas Musings with Fairbairn and Russell. Hello and welcome to the Market Musings podcast, and we're very, very, very near to Christmas now, and I've said this on the last few podcasts, but I think this probably definitely is the last podcast recording before Christmas. Maybe there'll be more before the end of the year, but it's certainly the last one before Christmas. So Charlie, you're privileged to be our last guest, maybe of 2020. Of course, Charlie, the geologist from SI Capital, and we're very pleased to welcome Charlie today to talk really about some of the best discoveries of 2020, but more importantly, what Charlie has his eye on for 2021, which will be very interesting to hear. So, very warm welcome, Charlie. How are you?
Good, thank you very much. And privileged to be possibly the last of 2020. Hopefully we'll see the end of this year.
It could be the last podcast before Christmas and the last podcast before Brexit.
Yeah, exactly.
Brexit, I can't even say it right. Yeah, so there you go. That's a milestone.
No, there's a lot of things to be thinking about, especially Brexit and how that's going to be affecting everything. And interesting times.
Yeah, it is interesting times. So how are you? How are things at SI? Have you finished yet?
Yes. I myself are actually already taken. I'm already on holiday as we speak, but we'll be closing up. I think it's tomorrow and until the new year. So
okay.
Yeah. No. Looking forward to the break, really.
Yeah.
But into the new year, there's lots to look forward to. Certainly in the commodity space, and it's going to be, I think, a fantastic 2021 for miners in general. But there'll be a lot to watch for.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. Oh, well, great. Well, before we get on to that, what are the standouts of 2020 then, Charlie?
Okay, so there's been quite a few. Certainly with projects, it's difficult to know when a fantastic deposit has actually been discovered. The initial hole is always going to, initial discovery hole might be fantastic grades, but it's not until size starts to build with these resources do you actually realize that this is something quite special. So some of them they're dragging from 2019 into 2020, but focusing kind of specifically on 2020 when the market has started to realize the potential of these discoveries. And what I was hoping to do is kind of use these as case studies as to what to be looking in the market when you are looking at a junior, and what are those triggers to make them from a small cap into something that's kind of a significant size project. And that was the way I was going to take it.
Yeah, sounds perfect to me.
Okay, well, we could start off with actually over in Canada. There's a project. There's a company, Great Bear, and they made a discovery, of the Dixie Discovery. So this is a fantastic place over in Western Ontario, and it's well known for these northeast, southwest major greenstone belts features there. But Great Bear were looking between kind of the Red Lake district, which are known for very high grade deposits, such as Pure Gold's deposit, which is just about going into production. I think they've got announcements about that, and down to the Hemlo mine, so those lower grade deposits. And Dixie has been found to kind of hold similarities between them both. And it's turning into a fantastic looking project. Drilling is going to be going into, it's actually funded all the way through to 2022 with 110,000 meters worth of drilling actually planned for just 2020. So it's been a huge push for them. Now, what's interesting about those guys is they're in the same district as a company which certainly I think we've all been watching is Panther Metals, who own two properties in that region, and they're already starting to show similar signs at surface of these kind of Hemlo-esque style deposits. So that's certainly one to be watching. Another major discovery this year, and I would say this is probably, if we're going to be strict to 2020, has been probably the discovery of the year. I think it would be arguable to say, as would be De Grey Mining's Hemi discovery. That's been looking absolutely fantastic. So that's up in the western side of the Pilbara region. So everyone knows Greatland Gold, kind of more on the southeastern side of that region, and the Dixie Hemi mine by De Grey. There looks to be a huge amount of exploration potential in that region, which is completely. It's still green, really, due to the sediments covering those deposits. It's looking fantastic. And yeah, they've drilled out a small section of that region, but it certainly shows, if you go onto their website, you can see there's a huge amount of more exploration potential along strike from them. Now, De Grey and Greatland Gold, they're proving one very interesting factor for this region, and that is the major deposits, like major high-grade deposits, are still hidden out there, and they're starting to reshape these exploration models that are being reapplied in those regions. So De Grey is showing a style of mineralization which is more high-grade intrusion related systems, and it's actually relatively shallow down. I think they've been testing down to around 400 meters, and they're looking to put out a maiden resource in the first half of 2021. So that's something certainly to watch for in regards to what's happening up in the Pilbara. Another project that I think in the UK has kind of gone under the radar, but it's certainly worth having a look at, is Bellevue Gold's deposit. Now, this is a great example of a mine that the geologists have come back to, re-looked at, and tested again. So the Bellevue mine operated. It closed about 20 years ago because it was one of the high grade mines of kind of the south part of Western Australia and the goldfields. Now, they were mining away there at one of the highest grade deposits in Australia at the time, and they came to a fault structure, which they believed the mineralization did not continue on the other side. Well, recently, Bellevue Gold, Australian listed company, came back to the project, re-looked at this structure, and suddenly realized, wait a moment, this thing continues up to the north. And this is another great example of using geological understanding and testing old deposits for new extensions. And in fact, they've identified 2.3 million ounces on the northern side of that resource, with multiple other targets heading up to the north. And this is high grade stuff. So that's 2.3 million ounces at 10 grams a ton, part of their maiden resource, let's call it. Maiden resources, probably a bit of mine. But yes, with high grade zones of 15.5 grams a ton within that. So these are little pods of fantastic high grade mineralization. Now, a project that's probably worth watching there is so Mila Resources, London listed Shell, are looking to do a reverse takeover of a company, New Generation Minerals, and that's actually within this Bellevue mineralized belt. So if you look to the north of Bellevue, they have an area called they have a target called Government Well. That intercepted mineralization, and on strike to that is this land package which New Generation have they picked up, they hold, and Mila will soon have be coming back to the market with this project. So that's certainly one to be watching in 2021 with a new deposit of potential very high grade mineralization. Looking out of Australia over to Africa, there's one project there, Tieto's Abuja project. Now, this is again another known project, never been mined, but it's been drilled quite extensively now. So they're still continuing to do their drilling. PFS expected in 2021, so I can't tell you how many ounces. Can't tell you how profitable this project will be. But currently, the maiden resource is at just over 3 million ounces, and that's looking to expand. And they've got, if I remember rightly, it's around 70,000 meters worth of drilling. So these are extensive amounts of drilling that's going to be going on at Tieto. Now, again, why is this interesting? It's because, of course, this has already been a discovery. It just shows what kind of projects are still hidden in these West African countries. So Tieto are based in Ivory Coast, but you still have Oriole Resources, who are both doing brand new early stage exploration, which are arguably their first movers over in Cameroon. And they've also got a JV with IM Gold, who are over in Senegal, and that's looking fantastic. A project there, and actually, leave going into more details there, but I think Oriole Resources is certainly one that's popped up on the radar in 2020, and it looks like 2021 is going to be an exciting year for those guys. And of course, you have also in Ivory Coast, Iron Ridge, who arguably they have made a discovery. Has it been realized by the markets? I don't think so, but certainly it's still drilling out. They're still drilling out that project. They're looking to have a maiden resource next year, and hopefully that's suddenly going to prick up people's ears, because they're suddenly going to see how extensive this deposit is. And notably, Tieto have been drilling down to down to 8. They're looking to drill down to 800 meters. Iron Ridge have only been drilling down to about 100 meters depth there. The less when you take in the air core drilling.
Yeah, we were just actually having a conversation the other day, Charlie. Who was it with, Mark, in the podcast when we were talking about Africa as a underexplored, the next gold destination? I'm trying to remember who was in the podcast.
Yeah,
Mark, can you remember?
We were talking to someone about. It was Alan Green, wasn't it? It was Alan Green. We were having musings with Alan Green. Yeah,
and that was one of the topics came up in the conversation, that Africa was the next destination for there's majors there already, but certainly a lot more exploration dollars thrown at it. There just seems to be, as you say, a few sitting ducks, a few monster projects waiting to be discovered.
Yes, certainly. I think Mali's been a really exciting place recently over on the western side. Lots of discoveries popping up there, and actually, I'll point out a private company, Origin, who they have got a team of geos who are very experienced in West Africa. And all they're doing is going back over projects that they've either looked at or worked on. And these majors, they do a huge amount of work on these projects. Historically, this is. I think they've cleaned up their act since, but they did a lot of work on these projects and drop them, forget about them, or just don't find them exciting or interesting. So Origin are going back in and picking up these untested projects. And most of the time, these are just the untested projects. There's a huge number of extensions to these systems when you look on maps and you think, well, what work's been done there? Very little. And there's certainly a lot of very high grade, very profitable systems to be looked at. I'd probably say Goldstone's a very good example of a system that just hasn't been tested properly. So they're located in Ghana. Now, down to the southwest of them, on strike, very much in throwing distance, is one of the world's largest gold deposits. Now, for the life of me, I'm not going to remember the name of it. But how on earth is the Goldstone projects, which still to the north of where they're drilling their open pit, there's plenty of exploration upside there. And actually, something I'm really excited about is their exploration upside. I know near-term production's exciting for most people, but I'm an exploration geo. I want to see how big this thing is. How's that sitting right next door to one of the world's largest projects? It's just because it hasn't been explored.
Yeah, and I suppose in Africa as well, well, not just in Africa, but you've got a lot of artisanal miners as well. So they almost guide you to the hotspots for exploration. It's like having your own, well, some of them are legal, some of them are not, sort of geos on site, pinpointing the hotspots for you to start looking.
Oh, certainly artisanals are a fantastic tool. I use them myself as a kind of exploration tool over in Rwanda to identify targets, but they can be misleading. And also, I think some of the major deposits are the ones that are undercover. And an artisanal, even if it's something as little as 5 meters undercover, he may not see that. It can be an accident for an artisanal to come across covered material like that. But I think a good example of this would be Iron Ridge's, I'm going to pronounce it wrong here, Vavua project over in the west. Now, they've gone in with rotary augers to soil sample this material because there's a relatively, well, it's actually a relatively thin cover. And the artisanals have been mining on little hilltops where the cover's most exposed, but when you go away from it, it vanishes. So they've used regional geophysics to identify structures. They've then gone in with rotary augers, identified those targets, and that's where we're going to be finding the new deposits, because really a gold system, if it's as large as, let's take Javieron, if that was at surface, that would have been mined years ago, absolutely years ago. It would be looking like, I guess, Kalgoorlie's super pit by now. But because it's got that thick sediment cover, it's not going to be, it's just not going to be found by artisanals and a geo walking over the top of it. Someone's got to actually have the drive to go and do it. And yeah.
So what else is in that area then, Charlie? Are the companies exploring in that Patterson region?
In the Patterson, there's quite a few. Artemis, I know, have been very active, and I do enjoy their tweets. But just to the north of the Javieron Discovery, they're looking to be doing some drilling there. So that's going to be quite exciting to have a look at. And there's also another ASX company, Rincon, who are looking at extensions to the Telfer mine, so southeast of that and south of the Telfer mine. And those, again, it's really interesting. They've got land that Newcrest have drilled. So they've got targets that Newcrest have actually plugged holes in back in the past, and they've picked them up and kind of, they're saying, okay, well, let's see how big these targets are. And so I'm not going to call it sloppy by the majors. That's certainly not what it is. But it's interesting to see how back only, 10, 20 years ago, what would be interesting looking hole is now an absolutely fantastic hole today. It's quite interesting. Actually, again, another company that's doing a very similar thing would be, now their name's gone from my mind, Castillo Copper. So they are looking at some targets over in Queensland. Again, they were drilled by, I want to say Newcrest as well on a couple of their targets. So Castillo Copper are an interesting company, not just because they've got drills turning and it's looking pretty exciting over there, but they've got a number of targets that really that have been drilled and were left by the majors who did drill them, or even targets. There's one particular target they've got called Aria. It's actually relatively deep. I think it's around 400 meters. deep, but the size of that anomaly is huge. There's an extensive anomaly with a fault which seems to be associated with this anomaly at depth, and at surface, this fault's containing copper mineralization and indicators that the geologists think that actually there's some sort of fluid movement occurring along this fault that probably is telling us that at depth that could be a mineralized body of some sort. So they're looking to drill that out, and that's again, that whole hypothesis wasn't their own. They picked up that the historic geophysics from this major, I think it is Newcrest, and they're going to be looking at testing it themselves. So again, exciting times for those guys.
All right, so Charlie, you pretty much talked about gold prospects. Is there any other prospects maybe in base metals catching your eye? Copper or maybe nickel or silver, anything?
There are, yeah. So I think most people know about Sandfire and the T3 discovery they have over in Botswana. But it's probably worth noting that this new Kavango Power Metals joint venture also holds land in that area. And that's something I'm again finding quite interesting. I'll be interested to see how that progresses, because Kavango not also holding a copper nickel PGE style deposit over there was the Kalahari Suture Zone. That whole thesis around that looks really exciting. They're doing something that's a lot more regional. Let's talk specifically about the Kalahari Suture Zone. A lot more regional. They've done some major geophysical surveys, usually done either by, I guess you could arguably say a country would have done those sorts of surveys, or a major, but Kavango have gone in, spent the money on doing these kind of large-scale surveys, tested them, proven that the geochemistry is right for these large mineralizing systems. And I think that's actually quite a good, I guess, target for a major to step in and say, actually, we like the data set. You've got an extensive land package there. That's something that'll be quite interesting to see how Kavango progresses in the future. And of course, their JV with Power Metals, again, looking at this copper zone in the north of Botswana, that'll be something interesting to watch. They're certainly sitting there under the radar, or possibly actually they're being watched by majors who are looking for these styles of deposits. If you look at South Africa and how things are progressing over there, maybe some of those producers might be more interested in a slightly more stable jurisdiction like Botswana. And like you said, you look at the size of the land package Kavango hold, that's hefty. That's something that I don't think a junior will be able to explore on their own. Like we talk about Great Bear over in Canada with planned 110,000 meter drilling campaign. Kavango won't be able to pull something like that out the bag without making investors very, very uncomfortable. Whereas a major who steps in and can take that with cash flow and say, wait, we want to find this thing. From the geochemistry, like Mike would tell you, it's all pointing towards there being something down there. So I'm excited to see what comes out of it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a story that we'll be following, and we have Mike on pretty regularly, so we'll keep up to speed ourselves. But no, there's definitely a lot of action out in the base metals. I mean, nickel as well is it's I'm trying to think what price that is. $15,000 a ton. I'll need to actually check. I've not checked for a couple of weeks, but there's a severe shortage of projects drilling for nickel at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only one that comes to mind is probably again it's Kitoro, Hanete, and Malopo.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have to remember there's two types of nickel as well out there. You've got nickel laterites, which actually notably part of the Mila deal will actually have a nickel laterite in that. But there's also then, as you were saying, with the power metal Katoro target over in Tanzania. That's more of a nickel sulfide, so more associated with the battery metals and the like. And there's a lot. Those sorts of systems, they take a lot more exploration, I guess you'd say, to find them, because they are very geographically constrained to certain areas, and there's plenty of material out there for people to go back and look over. But these things can get very deep. So not only are they geographically constrained, but they can also be deep, which makes them expensive. And when you're going to have to drill down to 400 meters plus, that can be quite expensive. So it's something that I can understand why there are few there are few juniors out there drilling them, because you need to be technically competent on these sorts of things. But also that they are high cost, high reward projects. So certainly next year, price of nickel continuing to tick up. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more players coming into this space, and it'd be exciting. Certainly, I guess an area that's become particularly interesting for this has been Finland. I don't know if you've ever looked at any projects over there, but that's an area that's both, of course, politically stable, but known for these styles of mineralization. So it'd be interesting to see if anyone pops up with something over there.
Yeah, I suppose if you talk about nickel laterite as well, you've got Corcel, which they've got the Mambari nickel project in the Wuwu Gap over in Papua New Guinea. And they're already sitting on the resource. I think there's just a few licensing issues that they're trying to sort out there, but I mean they're well under the radar as well. Their market cap's tiny, so there's a lot of projects out there and a lot of companies that are just completely off the radar. But something will be a catalyst for them. And it's just about getting into these companies at the right time and just waiting for that catalyst.
Yeah. And then. I guess outside again of metals, rare earths are starting to pop up. We've seen Linus doing very well this year, and I guess I'd bring into it myself Pensana Rare Earths, looking to not only produce rare earth concentrates down in Angola, but they'll also actually be processing it to a rare earth oxide up in the UK. So I'm really looking forward to them coming out with the feasibility next year, early next year, I believe. And we're starting to see China boom, yet a lot of the rest of the world haven't got these downstream processing facilities. So Pensana, who are making this downstream processing facility to allow Europe and America to then take a new supply chain, basically developing, getting products coming into the market from another source, is, I think, going to be something I'm certainly be watching in 2021, because you can say my lithium, my rare earths aren't being mined by the Chinese, but if they're going to be processed by the Chinese, then you still got this kind of stranglehold on the supply chain. So I'm be interested to see who's going to be producing European and American and even African downstream plants for production.
What about some of the bulk commodities? Look at, obviously iron was flying as well. I think it's $170 a ton. I mean, there's a couple of big opportunities I know in Africa that have been probably just overlooked because they've not been economic. But obviously now with that price starting to rocket, maybe suddenly they're back in the radar.
Yeah, no, iron ore, fantastic. It's done fantastic this year. Certainly, the Australian-China, let's call it trade war, is not helping things. So maybe we could argue that there is a bit of a bubble appearing in the iron ore price. Any project that comes online needs to really rely on a long-term stable price. But looking specifically at Africa, West Africa, that is well known for actually these high-grade iron ore deposits. Now, iron, the way these iron ore deposits form, they can have a lot of unwanted elements within them, such as vanadium, things, some of the other ones in there. But these properties will only allow them to go down, have only certain, they give the iron a certain property. So when it goes into steel or an end product, it carries these properties with them. So not all iron ore can be counted the same. And West African iron ore is actually both quite extensive. Deposits can be quite extensive and high grade. So meaning that they relatively pure, and it's good for your end downstream product that you're producing. But then again, you've then got logistical associations with them. And that's been where a lot of these projects have been held up, is quite literally not being able to get that product from the mine to the coast. Now, this is maybe a point, a theory that might come out in 2021, is a lot of these developing nations, they're not able to print money like Europe and America. They're not able to stimulate their economy in that sort of way. So they're going to have to rely on what they already have in country. And this might result in, and what I suspect is going to happen, is a lot of these countries with these vast resources will have to open up and become a lot more international investment friendly. And that's going to be something quite exciting, I think. And for a lot of these Africans, maybe South American jurisdictions, that's where I'm going to be watching, as these big projects that maybe have been held up with licensing and are completely undervalued. Well, will the government decide to change their mind on how these projects are licensed to progress forward? Or maybe there's new infrastructure that's going to be suggested that goes in place to enable these deposits to be accessed. So, yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of opportunities, as you're saying, in Africa and South America. I mean, you used to have a lot of UK listed companies exploring for gold, particularly in Argentina, but obviously that's relationships weren't great and that kind of fell away. But I don't know if we'll ever see companies going back into places like Argentina. I can't really think of any companies that are in there just now, but then I'm not completely up to speed in all the companies' name. But that's a region I remember. I'm trying to think of the company who were in there.
Well, the majors in South America that I would be able to think of, Antofagasta and Hochschild. But for junior explorers, I know SI, we have in the pipeline certainly one exciting looking copper project that we're looking to list possibly next year. So certainly that should add to the London portfolio of projects, and I certainly think we need more copper projects over in London to get our investors' teeth into, give us exposure, because it's certainly there's a high gold focus, I think, in London. But then I guess that's what most people understand is gold. If you tell someone the gold price is this, they know.
The gold's got the bling, but there's some commodities out there, industrial minerals that just make as much money, if not more, but they're just not sexy and they don't appeal to investors. Some of the bulk commodities like iron ore and things like that, they make a fantastic
manganese, products. But focused in either the South African markets or Canadian markets or even Australia. So it's somewhat frustrating when I go to these one-to-one investments or Minds and Money, meet these fantastic companies over in the TSX looking to raise cash. And I was like, you should just come over to London. I'm sure we'll be able to find you the money you need to progress that project a little faster. Certainly the ones that are a bit more developed projects, but we'll see.
So let me pose a question to you, Charlie. Then I would like you, if you can, maybe pick two companies. One that you are most interested in from a geological point of view, the one you'll be watching closely purely because it's very intriguing as to what might be found there, or as we do more drilling, how the results come out. And the second one, what would be the one you think is going to be, has the most potential to be the biggest winner, almost the next big find of 2021? Do you think you can you do that?
Oh, okay. So I would certainly put forward to what do I find the most geologically interesting. I think I'd throw a couple of ones in there before I say the one I want. But Chesterfield Resources certainly is my background, having worked for them, searching for VMSs in Cyprus, and recently having Polymet invest in them. That's going to be exciting to see those guys progress. They've been doing some drilling just before Christmas. I don't think they've got any. The drill results have come out yet, but I'm going to be very interested to see how that progresses. Another project, Oriole Resources. That would be up there because Cameroon basically being first mover advantage over there. Very excited to look at how they progress. And I guess the third one there would be Castillo Copper and their projects over in Queensland, because certainly having looked in the back rooms at some of their projects they've got there, they have a huge number of projects that they need to test, and they look absolutely fantastic, but they haven't got around to. They're drilling two of them, two very exciting ones, but they've got plenty more in the pipeline there. The Queensland asset, that area they hold, I think, not to be I'll be blunt about it, I think the Queensland asset just blows out the water. The Queensland ones not only has historic drilling there, some of those targets look fantastic. A lot of work's historically gone on with them. There's plenty of work to be going on them, and that'll be exciting. The Zambian project looks good itself. It's got some known deposits in that region, but how the size of the footprint that they hold there isn't quite the same as the Queensland. But I would certainly say the winner, though, of geologically, who's the most exciting project going into 2021? Probably me. That's going to be Cobra down in South Australia. They've got a huge number of targets to be testing. Gold, I know. I'd like to have a copper one winning that one probably, because I'm a big copper bull at the moment. But no, Cobra. The team have proven that the mineralization is there. There's high-grade mineralization over thick intervals, near surface. That's going to be very exciting, that project.
Yep, I'm saying Cobra Resources, they've got a whole ladder of drill results to come, hopefully early 2021. I think they put out their first load of results just a couple of weeks ago, but I mean, I think the majority of them are still to come. And it's a huge calcrete sort of anomaly, if you want to call it that. It's a ridiculous size. It's somewhat 60 kilometres by 20 kilometres wide. It's just like a massive area of targets. Mm-hmm. I think there's even historically there's some uranium in the mix as well. So there's all sorts of commodities in the mix. But yeah, no, we've had Craig Moulton on a few times before. Mm-hmm. He's certainly very engaging and knowledgeable. So
his technical knowledge is fantastic. I think he's probably of the CEOs out there, he's one that I've been most impressed on, how he's technically taken this project forward de-risking, spending investors' money to get to de-risk and get to making a real discovery. It's good to see investors' money being spent in a way that I think certainly being best used.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, you've got another podcast adventure going on. Is that correct? You can maybe give it a plug if you want while you're on.
Well worth checking out the Spotlight Mining channel. So Spotlight Mining is a media group who specialize in the more technical side of the mining industry. And not only that, there's something that they've just produced recently called Spotlight Green, where they're looking at the mining industry from an environmental side. So those people who are interested in getting exposure to the commodities, but at the same time understand that progressive moves within the industry need to happen, it's well worth logging on, having a check out of those guys, and they can point you in the right direction to what you might consider are green alternatives in the mining industry. It's something I'm certainly very excited to help the guys develop. And you hear about more of the interesting moves within mining, such as Atalaya Mining producing a solar farm to help their production and lower carbon emissions. I believe Sentiment are also doing similar things. So best to check out Spotlight Mining and see what they have to offer.
All right. If you just Google Spotlight Mining, will come up, or if you got the website?
Yes, Spotlight Mining. I believe it's spotlightmining.com. They're very active on Twitter as well. I'd probably have to Google what Spotlight Mining's website is. I'm sure it's spotlightmining.com.
All right. Okay. We'll put it up when we put the podcast out as well, or we'll tag them in. But no, it's been great having you on, Charlie. And like I say, you're 100% our last podcast before Christmas, because I'm not doing any more, regardless of what Mark says to me. I'm just, we can do them myself. I've had enough before Christmas.
I'm sure before Christmas.
Yeah. On that note, we'll wish you a Merry Christmas, and we'll speak to you in the new year, Charlie, no doubt.
Yep.
And to you too, chaps.
Perfect.
Thank you, Charlie.
All right.
Yep.
Enjoy it.
Thank you very much. Catch you later.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another podcast from Market Musings with Fairbairn and Russell.